Hi, I'm Noah and this is The Perceptions of Injustice. In today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down Charlie Adelson's defense opening statement.
My name is Dan Markel, and with me is Kate Myers, and we represent Charlie Adelson. Now let me start by saying the obvious. The murder of Professor Markel was a tragedy. The world lost a brilliant legal mind. His family lost a son and a brother. This community lost its sense of security and lost a good citizen. And his two boys, the nephews of Charlie Adelson, lost a loving father. His senseless murder continues to be felt throughout this community and others. It was inexcusable, despicable, evil. But what I'm going to tell you today is what actually happened. You will see that Charlie Adelson had nothing to do with the murder of Professor Markel. You will see that the state cannot come close to meeting its burden. Why? Because Charlie Adelson is innocent. Now, I don't have to prove innocence. What I'm telling you, I very rarely say in a courtroom as a defense lawyer. Charlie Adelson is innocent. And we'll get there. But the next thing I'm going to tell you, I also rarely say in a courtroom. And you may be surprised to hear this from a defense lawyer. I have great respect for the prosecutors and law enforcement on this case. I have admiration for their efforts after the murder of Professor Markel in trying to find out who did it. You will see that they spent countless man hours, cell phone tower dumps, surveillance videos from a boatload of places, buses, cameras on the street. Great law enforcement activity. And it paid off. They got the three killers. They convicted them. Sigfredo Garcia, convicted for life. Luis Rivera, Catherine Magbanua, convicted for life. Problem is, as you just heard, the state saw no connection between these people and Professor Markel. So from the very outset, the state suspected the Adelsons, the family. You saw the chart. It wasn't limited to Charlie Adelson. Unindicted co-conspirators in this case, the state has said it, Wendy Adelson, Donna Adelson, Harvey Adelson. The state knew, as you heard, that Wendy Adelson and Professor Markel had gone through a brutal divorce. You're going to see it. But they couldn't find the connection. But then they had their aha moment. As you heard, they determined that at the time of the murder in 2014, Charlie Adelson was dating Catherine Magbanua. And they learned that Catherine Magbanua had had a previous relationship, on again, off again, with Sigfredo Garcia. They learned that Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine Magbanua shared 2 children together. They had their connection. The problem is, that's where the state began to guess, began to make assumptions. And you will see, we will show it, that those assumptions didn't make sense. Now, I love jigsaw puzzles. I've loved them since I'm young.
Okay, so this is my first problem with the opening statement. He says that this is when the state begins to guess and to make assumptions. The definition of assumptions is the willingness to accept something as true without proof. Like Rashbaum is contradicting himself by saying that the state has had assumptions, because just 2 sentences before this sentence of the state began assumptions, he was giving credit and admiration to the state and to the prosecution team because of the work that they did, and the law enforcement because of the work that they did and the hours that they put, and the cameras, and he said it himself, buses and cameras in the street and so he said it as a fact that the state has worked very hard on the ground for this case. It's not just assumptions. They worked hard to get the proof, and they got proof. They got wiretapes, they got audios, they got videos. So you cannot just say, you just said it that they had the facts of this case. You just said that the state had done a very good job at gathering information. But when it comes to what's the connection between these 3, Garcia, Rivera, and Catherine Magbanua and Dan Markel, they got it wrong. And then they began assumptions. I don't think that then they began assumptions. They gave you proof. They gave you evidence. Yes, they made assumptions and guesses at the beginning. But then they proved it. You said it yourself that they have worked so hard for this.
The reason why I love them is because they only work if every piece fits. No matter what you do with the jigsaw puzzle, if a piece doesn't fit, it becomes a mess. You can't hammer it, and you can't ignore it. Because if you ignore it, you have holes in the puzzle. What you're going to see is, with regards to this case, that's exactly what the state tried to do. They heard things, they saw things, but there were problems. They couldn't fit all the pieces together under their theories. Their theories that they told you about today. I'm going to show you how those puzzles, those pieces, they didn't fit. They don't fit. And why? Respectfully, the state does not know what happened on July 18, 2014. On that day, 2 crimes occurred. The first one, the state knows about, and that was the brutal, heinous murder of Professor Markel. The other one, they don't know about. They're about to find out like you. Because that day would forever change Charlie Adelson's life. But before we get there, I like cliffhangers. It's important to give you some background and timeline of the events. Charlie Adelson is 46 years old, single with a young son. He grew up in South Florida, in Coral Springs in Broward County. His father was a dentist, a local dentist. It wasn't the Adelson Institute when Charlie was growing up. There was a small dental practice with his dad. Charlie is the middle child of 3. He is very close with his parents. As they said, he is very close with his mom. Growing up, the family was middle class. And Charlie was not particularly close with either of his siblings. He grew closer with Wendy as they got older. He went to college at the University of Central Florida, went to dental school in South Florida, and then periodontic school. When he graduated as a periodontist, he had an idea. Rather than work in his own practice, he figured that he could travel around to dental practices all over South Florida. He would be a traveling periodontist. So what you are going to learn in this case is that Charlie Adelson had practices from the very south of South Florida to as far places as Jupiter. He was in the car sometimes for hours in a day. And he worked a lot. You're going to see that. He was a workaholic. He spent a
What confuses me about this opening statement is that 90% of it is true. He's just stating facts. And then slips a statement from his side that doesn't add up with what he just said.
a lot of time in that car. And what did he do when he was in the car to pass the time? He spoke a lot on the phone. He would talk to whoever would listen to him. And you're going to see in this case, this is one thing we won't deny, Charlie Adelson likes to talk.
What a loser. He will talk to anyone who would listen to him. He just, I don't know.
And he likes to repeat himself. And who would he speak?
Charlie's expressions, he's very timid. He's being very timid about it when Rashbaum is defending him. I see a face of a kid as if someone is praising him in front of others, and he's timid about it.
The most, he'd speak with his girlfriend. He'd speak with his mom. He'd speak with his friends. Now, Wendy Adelson, who's a state witness, followed a different path. She went to a prestigious university in Boston. She then went to school in England on a Truman Fellowship, and later went to law school. She got scholarships for law school and college.
The golden child, the achiever. Now Rashbaum is telling us exactly the family dynamic that we always talk about. Rashbaum said it himself, that Charlie is a middle child. He is a middle child, and he very much suffers from that. We can see that, obviously. And now he's describing Wendy, which in the same way that we all describe her as, which is the achiever, the golden child, the privileged one in the family.
Soon after starting law school, she met Dan Markel, and they fell in love. They got married. They ultimately moved to Tallahassee, where they both worked for FSU. Professor Markel as a law professor of the law school. Charlie Adelson didn't have much to do with either Professor Markel or Wendy during their marriage or before their marriage. He would talk to his sister periodically, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. They lived in Tallahassee for years. Charlie Adelson visited him in Tallahassee 2, maybe 3 times. Charlie loved his sister. He sought advice from her, as she did with him every once in a while. But they weren't super close. They were brother-sister. The truth is that Charlie Adelson was a little self-centered. He was building his career. See, that traveling periodontist, in the beginning it wasn't that successful. But by the time of this case, in the 2013-2014 time period, you're going to see that Charlie Adelson was making a lot of money. His practice was booming. He was working 6, sometimes 7 days a week. You'll see it on the wires. You'll see it in text messages. He would start his day early in the morning, and most days he wouldn't get home till 8, 9, 10 at night. At the time when this murder occurred, he was not married. He had no kids. He had a lot of money. And he was living a very good life. Now, in 2012, Wendy Adelson, on a trip...
Rashbaum said that Charlie Adelson, in truth, Charlie Adelson is self-centered. He was a workaholic. He was building a career. He was trying to make a point that Charlie was too busy with his life, that he didn't care about Wendy's life. I mean, they were not that close even. Yes, yes, he is self-centered, but not in the way that you are trying to convince us, not in that way. He is self-centered in the sense that he only cared about himself and his pleasures and his satisfactions that he got in a plan that really he doesn't care about. I mean, how does Wendy's life affect him in reality? It doesn't. It gives him praise from his mom, which he needed the most, which he craved the most. One of the texts from Donna Adelson to Charlie Adelson said something like, "Oh, you're a miracle child. How did you do that?" I'm assuming it's about the murder, because it was after the birthday of Harvey Adelson. So this is what Charlie was looking for. In that sense, he was self-centered. He was self-centered to a point where he didn't care about his nephews, other people's lives, other people's families, a human being's life. He did care only about what am I gonna get from this as a praise, as an emotional satisfaction from my mother. Not like Rashbaum is trying to say. Rashbaum is trying to say that he is self-centered in the meaning of he did not care about Wendy. He was focused in his life and focused in his career and focused on building wealth. Yes, but no. I mean, yeah, he did not care about Wendy, but we know that he cared about Donna, obviously. That's not our point. You're saying something that we did not, the state did not say that they were close to each other and that he did that for Wendy. Now Donna is the one that was pushing for it. Now your puzzle pieces are not fitting.
down to South Florida, confides in her brother that she was having problems in her marriage. She told Charlie that she and Professor Markel had been going through marriage counseling. She asked him what he thought. He said, "Look, I want you to be happy, but you have to do what's best for you. I'm here to listen."
Oh yeah, I'm sure he said that.
Charlie had no involvement whatsoever in Wendy's decision to divorce Professor Markel. You'll hear that. And in September of 2012, Wendy filed for divorce. And you're going to hear about how she filed for the divorce, and you're going to learn that Charlie had no involvement in her leaving the house. Had nothing to do with him. But we got to talk about TVs. And you're going to hear a lot about TVs in this case. Excuse me. See, Charlie has a really bad history of telling bad jokes. So when Wendy left the house, his mom told him that she didn't have a TV. He asked her, he said, "What can I do to help Wendy? She's moved to a new place. She's left most of the stuff behind. What can I do to help?" And his mom said, "She didn't have a TV." He said, "Okay, when you go to Tallahassee, go to Best Buy, buy a TV for Wendy, and I'll pay you for it." And so Wendy got the TV, and she called Charlie. This is back in 2012. The murder's in 2014. And she thanked him for the TV, and he didn't say he looked into hiring a hitman. He joked, a bad joke, and he said it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. Now, not only was it a bad joke, but you're going to hear in this trial, Charlie repeated the joke. He repeated it a lot to a lot of people. You're going to hear that he repeated it as late as March of 2014. So the man that they think hired a hitman is joking to others about hiring a hitman.
So Rashbaum is trying to say in here that imagine they are saying that like if someone will do such a thing, which is hiring a hitman, he wouldn't joke about it. Imagine that he would joke about it when really he is hiring a hitman. Yes, to your surprise, he did that because he is a toddler. He has the emotional intelligence of not even a toddler. I know many toddlers that have much more emotional intelligence than this. Who does that? This is our problem with Charlie. Our problem with Charlie isn't that he is only evil and that he did that crime. It's that he even bragged about it and he was making jokes about it. And that's not okay.
Puzzle pieces.
Yeah. And yes, he is that stupid. He was making that joke over and over and over again just because it felt good to say it. Oh, I'm a gangster, I'm a cool guy, look at me.
And you're going to learn why his repeating of that joke is going to be so important. I'm going to tell you in a little bit. Keep in the back of your mind. But let's first go back to the divorce. The divorce was bitter. It was emotional. Wendy Adelson and Professor Markel, they'd have good times. But when things were bad, they would fight about everything. And in January of 2013, Wendy Adelson filed a motion to relocate to South Florida with her 2 boys. That motion was opposed by Professor Markel. Now, what you're going to learn in this trial is that Wendy Adelson never thought that motion would be granted. Her lawyer told her that motion would never be granted. But she said, let's give it a shot. Charlie had very little to do with the motion. He knew she was filing it. He knew she didn't have much chance of getting it. And the motion was denied. When it was denied, it didn't change Charlie Adelson's life one bit. But unlike Charlie...
See, this is my problem. My problem is that I feel that Hirashbaum is answering a question that has not been asked even. We never said Charlie was involved in the relocation, or that Charlie was very much involved in Wendy's life. That's not the case. That's not what we're saying. He's just making excuses for some things that the state did not even alleged.
And Dad were upset. They were upset because their daughter had a job opportunity in South Florida. She had no family support in Tallahassee, and they wanted her home. And you will see that Donna and Harvey Adelson are very involved in their children's lives. We won't run a... And you will see that Donna and Harvey Adelson are very involved in their children's lives. We won't run away from that. You will see that Donna Adelson and Harvey came up with a lot of crazy ideas. I mean crazy ideas. You're going to see them. You've heard about some of them. When they show you those crazy ideas, take a look if any of them includes murder. Doesn't. Take a look at any of those crazy ideas include anything illegal. It doesn't.
I feel like he's contradicting himself. You just said, imagine they're saying that the person who joked about hiring a hitman is the person who hired the hitman. And then he says, but they never mentioned anything about murder. They never said that. Yeah, but you just said that. I mean, if someone was to commit murder, are they gonna talk about it on the phone? Are they gonna talk about it publicly? Are they gonna suggest it to anyone? You just said it a few seconds ago, that the person who does that would never say that. It's like he's turning the table to whatever angle fits for him. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the jigsaw puzzle pieces. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
Take a look at if they're actually then go to lawyers to make sure that their ideas are legal.
Oh, how?
Murderers. You heard it. Unindicted co-conspirators going to lawyers to make sure that what they're offering is allowed. You're going to see that. But the ideas were crazy. You're going to read the emails, a lot of emotion. A mother-in-law, a grandmother with a lot of emotion.
I wouldn't say emotion. And you're going to see
that Wendy Adelson, she rejected them. She rejected the ideas. They were never presented to Dan Markel. And then you're going to see that there was another idea. They have mentioned it in their opening, but they don't understand the importance of it. See, at one point in time, Donna Adelson and Harvey Adelson came with an idea to pay Professor Markel $1 million to allow their daughter to relocate. And they went to Charlie, who frankly by this point in time had more money than them, and they said, will you lend your sister $350,000? She'll pay you back or we'll pay you back.
Who does that? I've never heard about that in my whole entire life. They're going around in the family to get loans for his sister to bribe her husband so she can move next to them. That's beyond crazy. That's, I don't know, psychotic.
And he said, sure.
And he said, sure.
And you're going to see that they presented this idea to Wendy Adelson. And the idea wasn't to take the boys out of Professor Markel's life. The idea was that with the $1 million, if Professor Markel agreed, he could live in South Florida and commute back and forth to Tallahassee. He could work out his schedule. He didn't teach every day of the week. He could work out his schedule so that he could still teach at the university and go back and forth. You're going to see that Wendy Adelson never made that offer. But it's very important. Like the joke, I want you to put it in your back of your mind for now. Let's fast forward to October 2013. October 2013, Charlie started dating Catherine Magbanua. We'll call her Katie. She was beautiful. She was smart.
Oh, that's okay. I think this is the biggest lie in the opening statement, honestly. That Katie is smart. Beautiful, okay. Smart, that's a bit of stretch for me.
Like Charlie, she graduated from UCF. She was hardworking. He met her in one of the dental practices. At first, the relationship was casual. They wanted it that way. Charlie particularly liked it and liked Katie because she had 2 children. He worked a lot. His priority was his job. And Katie didn't bother him a lot. He only saw her like once, maybe twice a week. That's what he liked. And she was smart. She was fun.
Again with the smart comment. Please, please.
And he treated her very well. And that was very different, you'll learn, from how she was treated previously. Now, you'll hear that he spent...
What an angel, Charlie Adelson. Seriously, what a nice boyfriend.
a lot of time with Katie over the months that they dated. And remember how I told you Charlie talks a lot and repeats himself a lot? Well, when they were together, he did just that. He talked about his day. He talked about what was going on in the world. He talked about his family, which, by the way, was a constant topic every single day.
We know.
Because when Charlie's driving in the car every morning for an hour to work and an hour home, sometimes longer, he talked to his mom on the phone. And when he talked to his mom on the phone, what would be a topic of heavy conversation quite frequently? Wendy's divorce. All the problem is in the divorce. They told you that.
The same exact opening statement that Rajbom is saying, if we take it and we just remove a few words that slipped here and there, we can make an opening statement for the state itself out of it.
They told you that in opening. And what would Charlie do? He would tell these things to his girlfriend. And what were some of the things he told her? Well, he told her about the $1 million offer. He told her that he could pay it in cash. She said, that's a lot of money. Have it in cash, and I'm going to get it back. He told her several times the joke. Over time, you're going to see through text messages that Katie wanted a deeper relationship. And you'll see that Charlie didn't want that. You'll also learn, and the timeline is important. They meet in September. They start dating in October of 13. You're going to see that over time, it takes a couple months, Charlie starts to learn a little bit more about Katie's ex, Sigfredo Garcia. And what you're going to learn is that Charlie Adelson never meets Sigfredo Garcia officially, but by all accounts, he was not a good guy. Violent. Long criminal history. Sigfredo Garcia and Katie had been high school. And what you're going to learn is that Charlie Adelson never meets Sigfredo Garcia officially, but by all accounts, he was not a good guy. Violent. Long criminal history. Sigfredo Garcia and Katie had been high school boyfriend, girlfriend. And Katie was the love of Sigfredo's life. He lived for her. And you're going to see that Sigfredo Garcia hated Charlie Adelson. Puzzle pieces.
Oh, so now the puzzle pieces works. So now when he's talking about this thing in particular, he'll mention the puzzle pieces and the puzzle pieces fit. But in other instances, when the puzzle pieces do not fit, he won't say anything about puzzle pieces.
Let me repeat it. You saw their chart. The shooter of Professor Markel, the man who murdered him, hated Charlie Adelson, according to them, his co-conspirator.
Yes, but that's right. He may hated Charlie Adelson, but you missed another truth, which is he loved money much more than he hated Charlie Adelson. So.
And you're going to hear, not from our witnesses, from their own witnesses, that he wanted to kill Charlie Adelson. You're going to hear that in March of 2014, just 7 or 8 weeks before that first attempt of murder that they talk about, he tried to kill him. Puzzle pieces.
So, yeah. So, as always, he's always mentioning the puzzle pieces when it fits for him, for his narrative and for his story. Okay, he hated him. Okay, he wanted to kill him. Okay, but that has nothing to do with the actual facts that really happened.
Also going to hear about a phone call on July 1, 2014. You're going to actually hear that July 1, 2014 call is how they found these guys. It's actually the craziest fact in this entire case, and there's a lot of crazy facts. You're going to hear that on July 1, 2014, Sigfredo Garcia made a call to the cell phone number of Harvey Adelson. It's the only call that helped investigators connect these folks to to the Adelsons in the beginning. It actually broke the case. What they don't know, what you're going to see, it's in text messages, it's discussed on the wires. They don't know it because they don't understand it because they weren't there. Is that on July 1st, 2014, just 17 days before the murder. Let me repeat that. The murder happens on July 18, 2014. On July 1st, 2014, Sigfredo Garcia tries to run Charlie off the road.
That doesn't mean anything. I mean, Sigfredo Garcia works as a hitman. What do you expect from him?
He threatens him. And what you're going to hear is that on July 1, he's so upset that he calls the Adelson Institute. Now, he doesn't realize that Charlie isn't the doctor at the Adelson Institute. He just comes in and out of the place. So he gets their voicemail machine, and you know how dentists are? They say in an emergency, call a cell phone number, they take your call at home on the cell phone number. What he hears in an emergency, call Dr. Adelson at such and such number. He thinks he's calling Charlie Adelson, but he calls Harvey Adelson. And he calls him, and he threatens him. He tells him, if you keep dating Katie, we're going to go mano y mano. I'm going to kill you. 17 days before, according to them, he conspired with this man to kill Professor Markel. Puzzle pieces. What you're going to learn is that in the spring of 2014, it became apparent to Katie that her dreams of financial security with Charlie were not going to work out.
So that's why she took another path with Charlie. Okay, marriage is not gonna work out. I'm not gonna be financially stable from this aspect with Charlie. Let's try another one with him. How can we take money from him from another way other than marrying him?
You will learn that Katie heard the hitman joke. You will learn that she heard the $1 million offer, and she got some ideas in her head. The state itself has called Catherine Magbanua the mastermind. And that's exactly what she was. So now, let's get to July 18th. I kept you waiting long enough. The June attempt didn't happen because Rivera didn't want to kill Dan Markel when his boys were around. See, what you're going to learn is during that June attempt, on June 4th, 5th, Professor Markel had custody of the boys. You're going to learn that Professor Markel and Wendy Adelson shared custody 50-50. But you're going to learn that the state thinks Wendy Adelson was involved with her brother in a murder for hire, and she chose for the killers to kill her ex-husband when he had custody of her kids.
It doesn't really surprise me from Wendy that if she would do that. Even Donna, she mentioned about in one of the emails to Wendy, she mentioned something about let the kids wear Hitler uniform. It wouldn't make them Nazis. So yeah, they would go to that length to get what they want. It's not surprising at all. You know, Luis Rivera had more, had a code for doing bad things much more than Wendy Ordona had. Rashbaum says it. That's what we learn from this statement, that Garcia had more ethical codes, much more than Wendy Ordona had.
Puzzle pieces. So you're going to learn that Luis Rivera, who is a bad guy, he had some conscience somewhere and he didn't want to do it in front of the kids.
Yeah, so
they came back. By the way, on July 18th, who had custody of the kids when the murder actually happened? Professor Markel. You're going to hear he dropped them off at school. But this family who did this so that their grandchildren could be with them,
no, he didn't.
We're going to risk for 2 hired hitmen to go up when he had custody of the kids.
Imagine that Donna and Wendy and Charlie were worse than Luis Rivera, who had a code not to do that in front of the kids or around the kids. And yes, it wouldn't surprise us for Wendy or Donna to do that. It's not something that would surprise us.
Puzzle pieces. July 18th for Charlie starts as a normal day. He works. You're going to see he lives in Fort Lauderdale. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with South Florida, so I'm going to give you a little bit of geography lesson. He lives in Fort Lauderdale. That day he's working in 2 offices, because he'd often work in 2 offices a day. He'd work in the morning at one place and the afternoon at another. So he's working in 2 offices. The first office he's working in, both of them actually, are in Jupiter, Florida. Now, if you're familiar with South Florida, Fort Lauderdale and Jupiter are not close. With South Florida traffic, in the morning, he was in the car for at least 2 hours. Now, he came home late that night, you're going to hear. He's talking on the phone. And you're going to see it. We're going to show you what the phone calls are about. He talks to his sister. Talks to his mom. Talks to his girlfriend. We'll talk to you about it. There are phone calls. You're going to see it. There are a lot of phone calls. And there are a lot of phone calls to his girlfriend. And there are a lot of phone calls to his mom. We're not going to deny that.
You cannot deny that.
And he works in these 2 offices.
Even if you want to.
And at around 6 o'clock, you'll see a text message that he's about to start a very long surgery, a big procedure. By the way, the text messages throughout the day are normal. Just after 7 p.m., he gets a call from his mom. And he's told that Professor Markel has been shot. And he's shocked. He's upset. His first reaction is, Wendy and the boys okay? He's supposed to have dinner originally with a friend that night. But earlier in the day that changes, and he's supposed to have dinner with Katie. And you're going to hear that Katie and him had gotten in a fight a couple days earlier about dinners. You'll hear it. And what you'll learn is after he finds out what happened, tells Katie he doesn't want to go to dinner. He leaves the office at around 8 o'clock in Jupiter. And you'll learn that Katie tells him she'll come to his house that night to comfort him. He shook up. Now, let me be clear. You're going to hear he wasn't close with Professor Markel. They weren't friends. They had nothing in common. But he shook up because someone he knew, the father of his nephews, had been shot.
I'm a sensitive soul, though I seem thick-skinned.
Charlie is a sensitive soul, though he seems thick-skinned, just like Pumbaa. He did not have anything in common with Dan Markel. It's just, it shook him just because he knows him, you know. He's very sensitive. And it shows on him, on his face, now.
When Katie
Look at
arrived that
face.
night, and you're going to learn more details of how she gets there, what she has to do to get there. It's not planned. You're going to see that. The state's going to put on that evidence. You're going to learn that she's scrambling to get a babysitter. You're going to learn, by the way, that Charlie had seen her for lunch the day before. So, if it's a murder for hire, why didn't she get the money then? Puzzle pieces.
There's no rules for murder for hire. They not just say, oh, murder for hire only happens when the money is paid beforewards or afterwards, or it doesn't work like that. There's no rules for that. There's no system for that. It's just bad people with bad people coming up with ideas, and up to them, whatever they want.
That she gets there that night, sometime after 11, and when she gets there, she is frantic. She's upset. And he's scared because he's never seen her this way. And she sits him down, and she tells him something terrible has happened. She says that a friend of hers had shot Professor Markel. She tells him over and over that she had nothing to do with it. But these people, she was talking too much. And her friend and these people learn about the problems that his family was having with Professor Markel. They learned about the $1 million offer. And they got it in their minds to do this. As you can imagine, his life has just forever been altered. He asks, who are these people? She won't tell him.
These are your guardian angels, Charlie. They heard about your joke about the hitman. They heard about how much you're stressed, you and your mommy and Wendy, about Dan Markel and his abusive behavior towards your sister, and so they took it upon themselves to do something very honorable for you guys, the Adelsons, specifically for you, Charlie, as your guardian angel, just to make you feel better. I just don't understand why would they do I mean, if they did that, then they did him a favor, because that's what he wanted. He was joking about it many times. It doesn't make sense that they did that just to piss him off, or just to...
It's not safe for you to know.
It's not safe for you to know.
Screaming at her. She won't tell him. Charlie had a guess. You will hear in detail what happened that night. You will learn that Charlie Adelson was told if he didn't pay within the next 48 hours, he or one of his family members would be next.
Oh, so they started with Dan Markel, their enemy, and then they're gonna get him and one of his family if he doesn't pay the money. It just doesn't make It doesn't fit. The puzzle pieces doesn't fit.
You will learn that Katie repeatedly said that she had nothing to do with it and acted distraught. You will hear how she said that she would help him. You will learn about the initial payment. It wasn't $100,000. It was more than $100,000. He took out everything he had in his safe. You're going to learn about that. The state doesn't know it.
So it
was more money. But you're going to learn he didn't have $250,000. So he had to pay every month. They don't know about that either. Payments every month. Does that sound like a murder for hire? Or does that sound like extortion?
That doesn't define what a murder for hire is. The way of payment doesn't define what a murder for hire is. This. Even Charlie said it in Dolce Vita with Catherine when they were talking. He told her, it's not like you or the people around you, meaning Garcia or Rivera, are walking around with a Lexus and just fancy things all the time. So he said the justification of him paying month by month and not like a whole sum of money directly to them. Just so, he told us in this audio that we're gonna hear as evidence why he did that. So it doesn't make sense that just because this is the way he paid for it, it's not murder for hire, it's an extortion. It does not. This is not how they're classified or how they are. Extortion is not classified by or defined as extortion by, if you pay month by month, then this is extortion. No, it's just sometimes it happens like that and sometimes it doesn't, because people change. People are different and schemes are different. So
you're going to hear about these gifts, and you're going to learn that the gifts were just that. They were gifts.
Oh, really? Only gifts?
Because as time went on, he became more and more certain that Katie was not involved. He became more and more certain that she was helping him. And he wanted to keep her happy too because he needed her.
So he knew, or he was convinced that she was helping him, so he paid her more money? Plus the money that he was paying the bad guys that they were extorting him? Isn't that enough for him? Don't you think that Katie in this situation would be like, hey, I want to help you. You don't have to pay me anything. You don't have to put more financial burden on you. I know that these bad guys are already extorting you. I know they are sipping money from you always, and I don't want to be another financial burden on you. Don't you think that this is the logical thing that would happen? So he knew that she was helping him, so that's why he was paying her more or giving her more gifts as time went by, because he needed her to be happy. Why would he need her to be happy if she was genuinely and authentically helping him and he was convinced with that, as you just said? Puzzle pieces again don't fit.
He needed her help. And you will hear that the payments changed a couple months after the night of the extortion.
Night of the extortion, wow. So now we're not saying the night of the murder, we're saying the night of the extortion. So now the extortion has become the number one event that happened on that day and not the murder. Wow.
You'll hear that the payments changed, and that Katie was put on the books of the Adelson Institute. Paper trail. They created a paper trail. Puzzles don't fit. Pieces of the puzzle don't fit.
The puzzle.
And you'll hear that in order to put her on the books, despite Katie telling him the night of July 18th. You can never talk about this with anyone. You can never talk on the phone about this. You can never talk about it in public. You can never talk about it anywhere, because if they find out, they will kill you and your family. If they think the police are coming to you to talk to you, they will kill you. Look at what they did to Professor Markel.
Oh.
But you will hear that he told someone.
Look at this innocent face. Look at this baby, innocent face. I didn't do it. Innocent.
He had to. He told his mom.
Yes, because he has to tell mommy.
You'll learn that she was the bookkeeper for the Dental Institute. You'll learn why he had to tell her. You'll learn about those checks. They've never been able to understand, why are they so sequential? Why are they back and forth? You'll learn why.
Oh, okay. Oh, now it makes sense. Puzzle fit now. Okay. For the jury.
They talk about the bump in 2016. What I like to call is the second extortion. What they don't realize is that their undercover operation was an extortion on an extortion. They don't know it. It's not their fault. And we're going to go through the wires with you. We're going to go through Dolce Vita with you. And we're going to show you how they actually prove his innocence. We're going to show you how they are talking carefully. They're talking to him. He's talking about an extortion. They're happy if this bump is the police, because if it's the police, none of them are going to get killed.
Oh, wow. No, they're not. It's not that. They're happy. Charlie said that if this was the police, then I'm happy because they don't have anything on me. Because if they did have anything on me, would be in the airport by now. His grandiose and sense of, he considers himself very, very smart. So that's why he thought that this was not the police and not the other way around. It's not that.
If it's a bad guy, they're in danger.
Oh, danger, bad guy, yeah.
If you do a murder with someone, the last person in the world you want this bump to be is the police. Because it means they're on to you. Puzzle pieces.
Yeah, but Charlie couldn't accept the fact that someone would be smarter than him. Unfortunately, as Harvey said to Charlie in a restaurant, I cannot remember the name of the restaurant right now, but he told him that I just didn't think they were that smart. Yeah, that's what happens when you think you're the smartest one in the room. That's what happens.
Not from the first layer, she says, but from the second layer. I got goosebumps when she said it. It's one of my favorite lines in the recording. Not from the first layer, the first extortion, but from the second layer. 20 months later is the bump. That's the second layer to Charlie Adelson at that point in time.
No, because there are layers in a murder for hire, and the layers as the state presented them is that the Adelsons are the first layer, let's say. The second one is Catherine Magbanua Garcia, and then the third one is Luis Rivera. These are the layers that they are referring to, the Adelsons are referring to.
You will also see, and what's going to be weird about this case, ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to start to see it today, much of their case, I agree about.
Yeah.
They're going to put witnesses up there. I'm not going to ask them one question. Some of their evidence is exactly the truth. It just doesn't prove a murder. The staple money, it's his money. You will also see that Sigfredo Garcia was arrested on May 25, 2016. You will see that Luis Rivera was arrested on June 2nd, 2016. You will see that Catherine Magbanua was arrested on October 1, 2016. Guess who wasn't arrested?
Charlie.
Charlie Adelson.
Yeah, because they did not have...
He wasn't arrested for 6...
Because if they arrested him at that time, then your opening statement would make sense. If they arrested him that time, when they arrested Garcia, Rivera, and Magbanua, then when you say it's just assumptions and then the state is just guessing and assuming that this is the link between Catherine Magbanua and Dan Markel, yes, you would be right. But they did not do that because they needed time to prepare and get proof and evidence in their hands to present to a jury, just like they're doing right now, to prove what they're saying. So they don't make assumptions. Puzzle pieces.
6 more years. And what you're going to see is that they have the exact same evidence in 2016 against Charlie Adelson that they do today. The same liars. They talk about an enhanced Dolce Vita recording. You're going to get both recordings. You determine if you can hear anything better. See, the state's case against Charlie Adelson is a case of assumptions.
No, it's...
It's a case of guesses.
No.
It was not brought until weeks before Katie Magbanua's trial. You can ask yourself why. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your attention. I want to ask for your patience in this case. A man's life is in your hands. He's innocent. Send him home.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
I mean, I guess I cannot say anything about Rajpom because at the end of the day he's doing his job and that's his job, and I think with what he had, he did a fantastic job because you need a fairy tale to justify everything that's happening and that's happened and everything in the wiretaps, and that's exactly what's happening in the opening statement, a fairy tale. It's just a story that we create. It's not true, but at least. So this is the defense. This is how they worked. They worked on, okay, we're gonna first try to cover up the Dolce Vita wiretapes down so the jurors don't hear the dolce vita. It didn't work with them. Okay, next step, we're gonna invent a story, invent a fairy tale about this extortion that happened without Charlie, the sensitive soul, knowing about it, and we're gonna choose specific jurors that may have a chance to get convinced with this fairy tale, and that's why they got the other lawyer that was only involved only in the jury selection, just because the combination of these two, a right jury, right, I mean in their sense, how they think a right jury would be, that would be convinced in their fairy tale. I think they had a chance, and they failed in this chance because obviously no human brain, sane mind would get convinced with this puzzle pieces that don't fit, in my opinion. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, comment. I would love to hear all of your comments. I do see each and every comment that is made on my videos. I am very thankful for them. I'm very thankful for your beautiful words and your supportive words. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.